meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.
The now is what matters the most. I almost said musical spotlight. It's a Live One on the Fringe, of course. And we've got a fun show today. We've got sessions 83 and 84. A big part of what it talks about is the veil. The veil. And this is a very cool part of life. There is this component of life that we don't know what happens on the other side. This veil. Now, some of us that maybe have experienced people from the other side, we have a pretty strong sense that there is another side. But outside of that, nobody knows. So the veil is a big deal. Big question. And I would say one thing to really ask ourselves is not so much the fact that, oh, there's a veil. Yeah, totally a veil. It's more of the why is there a veil? And I think that's the question a lot of us need to kind of wrestle, if you will. Why is there a veil? It's there for a reason. Creator makes no mistakes. The perfection's beautiful. It's baked in. There's no way to miss it. It's supposed to be the way it is. So that, again, there's no way to miss it. Once you learn kind of the rules, the rest is kind of gravy, if you will. Or some sort of non-unhealthy, delicious topping. We're going to talk on the 84 a little bit about Carla's demise, just what's going on. Again, you can see what's happening. I think it's important. We'll discuss it further. But what you focus on, you create. I know I've done manifesting videos and stuff, danradiostyle.com, at danradiostyle.com is my website, but obviously the YouTube channel. Been doing manifesting stuff forever. Do I want to help everybody find relationships? No. That's one of the things that kind of got annoying for me. That's why I was like, there's a bigger purpose, and everything happened the way it did. So understanding manifesting, though, is key to everything. Key. What you think, what you say, what you do. You guys, collectively. And then when we do it all at the same time, it's got extraordinary power. So Carla's demise, that there was 3 of them, a lot of focus on her health, and done incorrectly can lead to ill health. And people being a martyr, which we'll talk about more, will take on that because it actually helps the other two. So there's a group of three, and it'll help the other two understand how a martyr will take that energy and turn it into something that might end their life. Again, we haven't gotten there. It's early. But we got that. So we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot going on. Session 83 and 85. I think it was 82 when it was recorded. But that's just numbers next to each other that make no sense. It's session 83. That's what matters. It's right here. It is. I keep on to say my musical show tomorrow. I'm looking forward to. I'm very excited about, by the way. But we are doing Law of One, session 83, and it's a powerful bit of experience about the veil and what's on the other side and how we learn about that. Law of One, session 83, recorded April 5th, 1982. Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. I communicate now. Questioner, could you first please give me the condition of the instrument? Ra. I am Ra. It is as previously stated. Questioner, could you please tell me why the instrument gains weight now instead of loses it after a session? Ra. I am Ra. To assume that the instrument is gaining the weight of the physical bodily complex due to a session or working with Ra is erroneous. The instrument has no longer any physical material which, to any observable extent, must be used in order for this contact to occur. This is due to the determination of the group that the instrument shall not use the vital energy which would be necessary since the physical energy complex level is in deficit. Since the energy, therefore, for these contacts is a product of energy transfer, the instrument must no longer pay this physical price. Therefore, the instrument is not losing the weight. However, the weight gain, as it occurs, is the product of two factors. One is the increasing sensitivity of this physical vehicle to all that is placed before it, including that towards which is distorted in ways you would call allergic. The second factor is the energizing of these difficulties. It is fortunate for the outlook of this contact and the incarnation of this entity that it is not distorted towards the overeating, as the overloading of this much distorted physical complex would override even the most fervent affirmations of healthy illness and turn the instrument towards the distortion of illness, health, or, in the extreme case, the physical death. Questioner, thank you. I'm going to ask a rather long, complex question here, and I would request that the answer to each portion of this question be given if there was a significant difference prior to the veil than following the veil, so that I can get a better idea of how what we experience now is used for better polarization. Asking if there is any significant difference, and what was the difference, before the veil and the following while incarnate in the third density: sleep, dreams, physical pain, mental pain, sex, disease, catalyst programming, random catalyst, relationships, or communication with the higher self, or with the mind, body, spirit totality, or any other mind, body, or spirit functions before the veil that would be significant with respect to their difference after the veil. Ra. I am Ra. Firstly, let us establish that both before and after the veil, the same conditions existed in time-space. That is, the veiling process is a space-time phenomenon. Secondly, the character of experience was altered drastically by the veiling process. In some cases, such as the dreaming and the contact with the higher self, the experience was quantitatively different due to the fact that the veiling is a primary cause of the value of dreams, and is also the single door against which the higher self must stand awaiting entry. Before veiling, dreams were not for the purpose of using the so-called unconscious to further utilize catalyst, but were used to teach learners within the inner planes as well as those of outer origins of higher density. As you deal with each subject of which you spoke, you may observe during the veiling process not a quantitative change in the experience, but a qualitative one. Let us, as an example, choose your sexual activities of energy transfer. If you have a desire to treat other subjects in detail, please query forthwith. In the instance of the sexual activity of those not dwelling within the veiling, each activity was a transfer. There were some transfers of strength. Most are rather attenuated in the strength of the transfer due to the lack of veiling. In the third density, entities are attempting to learn the ways of love. If it can be seen that all are being, it becomes much more difficult for the undisciplined personality to choose one mate and thereby initiate itself into a program of service. It is much more likely that the sexual energy will be dissipated more randomly without either great joy or great sorrow, depending from these experiences. Therefore, the green ray energy transfer, being almost without exception the case in sexual energy transfer prior to veiling, remains weakened and without significant crystallization. The sexual energy transfers and blockages after veiling have been discussed previously. It may be seen to be a more complex study, but one far more efficient in crystallizing those who seek the green ray energy center. Questioner: let's take then, since we are on the subject of sex, the relationship before and after the veil of disease, in this particular case, venereal disease. Was this type of disease in existence prior to the veil? Ra: I am Ra. There has been that which is called disease, both of this type and others, before and after this great experiment. However, since the venereal disease is in large part a function of the thought form of a distorted nature, which are associated with sexual energy blockage, then the venereal disease is almost entirely the product of mind-body-spirit complexes interactions after the veiling. Questioner: you mentioned it did exist in a small way prior to the veil. What was the source of its development prior to the veiling process? Ra: I am Ra. The source was as random as the nature of disease distortions are at heart in general. Each portion of the body complex is in a state of growth at all times. The reversal of this is seen as disease and has the benign function of ending an incarnation at an appropriate space-time nexus. This was the nature of disease, including that which you call venereal. Questioner: I'll make this statement, and you can correct me then. As I see the nature of the action of disease, specifically before the veil, it seems to me that the Logos had decided upon a program where an individual mind-body-spirit would continue to grow in mind, and the body would be in the third density analog of this mind, and the growth would be continual unless there was a lack of growth or an inability, for some reason, for the mind to continue along the growth patterns. If this growth decelerated or stopped, then what we call disease would then act in a way so as to eventually terminate this physical experience, so that a new physical experience could be started to continue the growth process, after a review of this entire process had taken place between incarnations. Would you clear up my thinking on that, please? Ra: I am Ra. Your thinking is sufficiently clear on this subject. Questioner: one thing I don't understand is why, if there was no veil, that the review of incarnation after the incarnation would help the process, since it seems to me that the entity should already be aware of what was happening. Possibly this has to do with the nature of space-time and time-space. Could you clear that up, please? Ra: I am Ra. It is true that the nature of time-space is such that a lifetime may be seen whole as a book or a record, the pages studied, rifled through, and reread. However, the value of review is that of the testing as opposed to the studying. At the testing, when the test is true, the distillations of all study are made clear. During the process of study, which you may call the incarnation, regardless of an entity's awareness of the process taking place, the material is diffused and over-attention is almost inevitably placed upon detail. The testing upon the cessation of the incarnative state is not that testing which involves the correct memorization of many details. This testing is rather the observing of self by self, often with aid, as we have said. In this observation, one sees the sum of all the detailed study, that being an attitude or complex of attitudes which bias the consciousness of the mind, body, spirit. Questioner, I just thought of an analogy while you were saying that, in that I fly an airplane, and I have testing in a simulator, but this is not too much of a test since I know we're bolted to the ground and can't get hurt. However, when we're actually flying and making the approach, landing, etc., in the airplane, even though it's in the same, it is, I guess, a poor analogy with respect to what was happening prior to the veil. I know all of the conditions in both cases, and yet I cannot get too interested in the simulator work because I know that it is bolted to the ground. I see this as the entities prior to the veil knowing they were bolted to the creation, so to speak, or part of it. Is this a reasonable analogy? Ra, I am Ra. This is quite reasonable, although it does not bear upon the function of the review of incarnation, but rather bears upon the experiential differences before and after veiling. Questioner, now before the veil, an entity would be aware that he was experiencing a disease. As an example, would you give me, if you are aware of a case of a disease an entity might experience prior to the veil, and how he would react to this, and think about it, and what effect it would have on him in a complete sense? Could you give me an example, please? Ra, I am Ra. Inasmuch as the universe is composed of an infinite array of entities, there is also an infinity of responses to stimulus. If you will observe your peoples, you will discover greatly variant responses to the same distortion towards disease. Consequently, we cannot answer your query with any hope of making any true statements, since the overgeneralizations required are too capacious. Questioner, was there any uniformity or like functions of societies or societal organizations prior to the veil? Ra, I am Ra. The third density is, by its very fiber, a societal one. There are societies wherever there are entities conscious of the self and conscious of other selves, and possessed with intelligence adequate to process information indicating the benefits of communal blending of energies. The structures of society before, as after veiling, were various. However, the societies before veiling did not depend in any case upon the intentional enslavement of some of the benefit of others, this not being seen to be a possibility when all are seen as one. There was, however, the requisite amount of disharmony to produce various experiments in what you may call governmental or societal structures. Questioner, in our present illusion, we have undoubtedly lost sight of techniques of enslavement that are used since we are so far departed from the pre-veil experience. I am sure that many with service to others orientation are using techniques of enslavement, even though they are not aware these are techniques of enslavement, simply because they have been evolved over so long a period of time and we are so deep into the illusion. Is this not correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect. Questioner, then you say that there are no cases where those who are service to others oriented are using in any way techniques of enslavement that have grown as a result of the evolution of our social structures. Is this what you mean? Ra, I am Ra. It was our understanding that your query concerned conditions before the veiling. There was no unconscious slavery, as you call this condition, at that period. At the present space-time, the condition of well-meant and unintentional slavery are so numerous that it beggars our ability to enumerate them. Questioner, then for a service to others-oriented entity at this time, meditation upon the nature of these little expected forms of slavery might be productive in polarization, I would think. Am I correct? Ra, I am Ra. You are quite correct. Questioner, I would say that a very high percentage of the laws and restrictions within what we call our legal system are of a nature of enslavement of which I just spoke. Would you agree with this? Ra, I am Ra. It is a necessary balance to the intention of law, which is to protect, that the result would encompass an equal distortion towards imprisonment. Therefore, we may say that your supposition is correct, This is not to denigrate from those who, in green and blue ray energies, sought to free a peaceable people from the bonds of chaos, but only to point out the inevitable consequences of codification of response, which does not recognize the uniqueness of each and every situation within your experience. Questioner, is the veil supposed to be what I would call semi-permeable? Ra, I am Ra. The veil is indeed so. Questioner, what technique and methods of penetration of the veil were planned, and are there any others that have occurred other than those planned? Ra, I am Ra. There were none planned by the first great experiment. As all experiments, this rested upon the nakedness of hypothesis. The outcome was unknown. It was discovered, experientially and empirically, that there were as many ways to penetrate the veil as the imagination of mind-body-spirit complexes could provide. The desire of mind-body-spirit complexes to know that which was unknown drew to them the dreaming and the gradual opening to the seeker of all of the balancing mechanisms leading to adepthood and communication with teach learners which could pierce this veil. The various unmanifested activities of the self were found to be productive in some degree of penetration of the veil. In general, we may say that by far the most vivid and even extravagant opportunities for the piercing of the veil are a result of the interaction of polarized entities. Questioner, could you expand on what you mean by the interaction of polarized entities in piercing the veil? Ra, I am Ra. We shall state two items of note. The first is the extreme potential for polarization in the relationship of two polarized entities which have embarked upon the service to others path, or, in some few cases, the service to self path. Secondly, we would note that effect which we have learned to call the doubling effect. Those of like mind which together seek shall far more surely find. Questioner, specifically by what process in the first case, when two polarized entities would attempt to penetrate the veil, whether they be positively or negatively polarized, specifically by what technique would they penetrate the veil? Ra, I am Ra. The penetration of the veil may be seen to begin to have its roots in the gestation of green ray activity, that all compassionate love which demands no return. If this path is followed, the higher energy centers shall be activated and crystallized until the adept is born. Within the adept is the potential for dismantling the veil to a greater or lesser extent, that all may be seen again as one. The other self is primary catalyst in this particular path to the piercing of the veil, if you would call it that. Questioner, what was the mechanism of the very first veiling process? I don't know if you can answer that. Would you try to, though, answer that? Ra, I am Ra. The mechanism of the veiling between the conscious and unconscious portions of the mind was a declaration that the mind was complex. This, in turn, caused the body and the spirit to become complex. Questioner, would you give me an example of a complex activity of the body that we have now and how it was not complex prior to the veil? Ra, I am Ra. Prior to the great experiments, a mind-body-spirit was capable of controlling the pressure of the blood in the vein, the beating of the organ you call the heart, the intensity of the sensation known to you as pain, and all the functions now understood to be involuntary or unconscious. Questioner, when the veiling process originally took place, then, it seems that the Logos must have had a list, you might say, of those functions that would become unconscious, and those that would remain consciously controlled. I am assuming that if this occurred, there was a good reason for these divisions. Am I in any way correct on this? Ra, I am Ra. No. Questioner, would you correct me, please? Ra, I am Ra. There were many experiments whereby various of the functions or distortions of the body complex were veiled and others not. A large number of these experiments resulted in non-viable body complexes, or those only marginally viable. For instance, it is not a survival-oriented mechanism for the nerve receptors to blank out unconsciously any distortions towards pain. Questioner, Now, before the veil, the mind could blank out pain. I assumed then that the function of the pain at that time was to signal the body to assume a different configuration so that the source of the pain would leave. But then the pain could be eliminated mentally. Is that correct? And was there another function for pain prior to the veiling? Ra, I am Ra. Your assumption is correct. The function of pain at that time was as the warning of the fire alarm to those not smelling smoke. Questioner, then let's say that an entity at that time burned its hand due to carelessness. It would immediately remove its hand from the burning object, and then, in order to not feel pain anymore, would mentally cut the pain off until the healing had taken place. Is this correct? I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, we would look at this in our present illusion as the elimination of a certain amount of catalyst that would produce an acceleration in our evolution. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. The attitude towards pain varies from mind-body-spirit complex to mind-body-spirit complex. Your verbalization of attitude towards the distortion known as pain is one productive of helpful distortions as regard to the process of evolution. Questioner, what I was trying to indicate was that the plan of the Logos in veiling the conscious from the unconscious in such a way that the pain could not so easily be controlled would have created a system of catalysts that was not previously usable. Is this generally correct? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. Questioner, now in some cases it seems that this use of catalyst is almost in a runaway condition for some entities, that they are experiencing much more pain than they can make good use of as far as catalytic nature would be concerned. Could you comment on our present condition in the illusion with respect to that particular subject? Ra, I am Ra. This shall be the last query of this working of a full length. You may see in some cases an entity which, either by pre-incarnative choice or by constant reprogramming while incarnation, has developed an esurient program of catalyst. Such an entity is quite desirous of using the catalyst and has determined to its own satisfaction that what you may call the large board needs to be applied to the forehead in order to obtain the attention of the self. In these cases, it may indeed seem a great waste of the catalyst of pain and a distortion towards feeling the tragedy of so much pain may be experienced by the other self. However, it is well to hope that the other self is grasping that which has gone to some trouble to offer itself, that is, the catalyst which it desires for use for the purpose of evolution. May we ask if there are any brief queries at this time? Questioner, I noticed you started this session with, I communicate now. You usually use, we communicate now. Is there any significance or difference with respect to that? And then, is there anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. We am Ra. You may see the grammatical difficulties of your linguistic structure in dealing with a social memory complex. There is no distinction between the first person singular and the plural in your language when pertaining to Ra. We offer the following, not to infringe upon your free will, but because this instrument has specifically requested information as to its maintenance, and the support group does so at this querying. We may suggest that the instrument has two areas of potential distortion, both of which may be aided in the bodily sense by the ingestion of those things which seem to the instrument to be desirable. We do not suggest any hard and fast ruling of diet, although we may suggest the virtue of the liquids. The instrument has an increasing ability to sense that which will aid its bodily complex. It is being aided by affirmations and also by the light, which is the food of the density of resting. We ask the support group to monitor the instrument, as always, so that in the case of the desire for the more complex proteins, that which is the least distorted might be offered to the bodily complex, which is indeed at this time potentially capable of greatly increased distortion. I am Ra. We thank you, my friends, for your continued conscientiousness in the fulfilling of your manifestations of desire to serve others. You are conscientious. The appurtenances are quite well aligned. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing merrily in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. Amen to that. That's for sure. On the Fringe, Dan RadioStyle. Yeah, this is again fun. The few things jump out at me, and then I've got a question that was posed, and again we're gonna do the after thing. I'll share a link in the chat for the after for like I don't know 10, 15 minutes. We'll hang out if any of you guys have questions. So we'll get there. Green Ray, Great Leap. It's just something I wanted to bring up. It is the big jump. So when you go Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? So that's how you remember it. Roy G. Biv. Okay? Red, orange, yellow, that's the primary low-level kind of stuff. This is what the deep state... sorry. Let me put it this way. Sorry. I'm so programmed for my other show. This is what even the service to self people use, is those three those initial three. Now, all of us do. All of us do. Now, the difference, service to others people, kick it up into the green ray. The green ray is the love ray. The love ray is where you're feeling something without knowing it. This is the way you'll do it. It will be, it's called the Great Leap because you're like, I swear to God, I have to do this. And everybody's going to be like, that's stupid. You shouldn't do that. Everything, all the numbers, there's 1,000 numbers right here that says you shouldn't do it. And you're going to be like, but I freaking need to do it. It bugs you. It burns. That's the Great Leap. And when you do it, the reward is beyond word. It's the connection to that upper level. And that's the service to self path doesn't really get it. They have to go in a weird circuitous rate. They got to go around it all. And they don't get that joy that comes through green, blue, indigo even. They just go straight to kind of violet, kind of skip around it. So that is, and this may not make sense to, but in like 5 years from now or 2 years from now, or I don't even know what time frames are anymore, it's ridiculously fast, it will make more sense. The concept of testing or judgment, I think a lot of people believe from the religious standpoint, it's not judgment. It's you literally experiencing, this is the best understanding, at least I have of it, is you get to experience all the places and how you made others feel. Like you get to relive it, but kind of from their standpoint. So you feel how they felt when you did what you did. You know, like, so you understand it. Because we are all each other. We're other selves. We're one, all, right? So you get to experience what you felt when you did that to yourself, essentially. So that is the judgment. It's not so much, oh, you're going to hell. It's not necessary. That's not why we're here. That's not what this is for. That's not the point of this all. So, something to think about. And also, anything is possible. Things can change in a heartbeat if you change yourself, change your mind, change your heart, change your behavior. And you'll be amazed at how things will change in an instant. So keep that in mind as well. Let's see. Turning on you. I don't know what I'm saying. I put a star next to it, and I don't know what the hell I was saying on that one. Really? Okay, bastards. All right, up, down, left, right. We all use the same plumbing, guys. This is the Matrix kind of made it sound over simple, but kind of fair. Like we're all in the video game together, and so understand it. It's showing you what you need to learn. It's showing you what you need to kind of grow from, and you will see it. You'll find it, and it's pretty cool when you connect, because the second you connect the dot to the real life for your real life is not the same real life as everybody else. You'll have your little moments. You could be married. There could be someone sleeping in the bed next to you, but you get up and pee or something in the middle of the night. Your experience suddenly just separated. You're in your own world. You're in your own experience. You stub your toe, the cat steps, you step in cat poo, whatever. I don't know. I'm not trying to put bad things out there. I apologize. Like, you love, you just rainbows. There's rainbows everywhere. You're squishing on rainbows. I don't know, whatever. It's the best way to say it. But your experience is unique. Each one of us has our own 100% of the time experience. It's so important to pay attention to that. What that experience is, what you're thinking, what are you focusing on, what are you allowing to bounce around inside of your noodle, that Because all of us, I look fat. This is like not a good color. Like, I don't even know what some of us are saying. We have to know and own that voice. That's you. That's the I am. That's the thing that's just like aimlessly wandering around going, we're in the matrix to learn how to guide that thing. All right, almost done, guys. Subconscious. I got a question. Subconscious versus conscious. That's what the veil seems like they're kind of describing here. I think it's a little deeper than that, but for a large part, that's kind of true. Like on the other side of the veil, like there's no, like you're complete total control of like whether you breathe or not, you know. But here we don't have to. Like if you just decide you're like, I'm not gonna breathe anymore, and then all of a sudden your body's gonna be like, oh hell yeah you are. And you, shit, I tried. It'll eventually make it do you, or make it happen. We have subconscious things, unconscious things that are there so we don't have to worry about it, to make it easier. So we can focus on getting XP, as we would call it in the gaming world. Like enhancing our character, getting smarter about what we do, learning and growing. Like XP. You're going to get some sort of, level up. You'll get it. So subconscious versus conscious. They took all the hard crap out. Made it easy. In fact, just focus on this. Because I think we shortened our lives. Noah's time, right? It was like 900 years or whatever shit. They lived forever, right? So you live 900 years. You figure some things out along the way. Today, we don't live that long. So we're trying to extend that so we can kind of get a bit more like you start to figure stuff around, around your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, right? And then from there, it's just gravy sauce. And it's just appreciation and love. Everywhere you go, there's just, oh, right? Like angels shine on you. That is how it is. So if you can extend that out time-wise, the things you could learn, the places you could go, what you could do with your understanding. And that's really what the growth is, the evolution, the graduation, whatever. And someone asked a beautiful question. Let me see if I can find it up here. Patriot Daryl. I'm going to see. I can show it. Look at this. I have the ability. Look at that. Thank you, by the way. Arlene makes this all possible, too. Patriots Daryl, question. Did the veil always exist? Do we ever reach a level of ascension where the veil is no longer necessary? So, has the veil always existed? They say no. I think the veil, the right answer would be the veil existed when it needed to. The second there needed to be a veil, because like, if you don't have any sort of resistance, if you don't have any sort of thing that pushes you, if you don't, it's like, if I didn't, my rent sucks. Like if you didn't have that thing that causes you to have to go out tomorrow and try to be a part of this system, then you wouldn't be a part of the system. You wouldn't care. You wouldn't be involved. So the veil became necessary at a point where we had to kind of separate ourselves from this and that. You know what I mean? That concept, literally, this and that, like separate from me. And as that evolution occurred, forgetting and, coming at it the way we do became apparent and needed. And now some of these things got hijacked, by the way, which I think is a big part of what this experience here is it's somewhat hijacked, but I don't want to get lost. But do we ever reach the level of ascension where the veil is no longer necessary? It's also a very, very cool question. Yes, no. Yes, we all end up. That's where we go. When you dream at night, that's where you go. When you die, that's where you go. Before you're born, that's where you are. There is this place where perfection is everywhere. And perfection is such a simple way to put it. I mean, it's very different than here, where you have the ability to experience things in, I don't know, kind of a weird molasses time. Like in heaven, I feel like it's instant. Here, it's kind of like, oh, I had a thought. And it's like the Matrix. And you're like, a bullet just flew by, right? Like, that's not kind of how heaven is. Heaven's like, bullets, like, or whatever. There wouldn't be bullets. It's not like that. But no, these things react well to bullets. But that said, it's not how it is there. So Patriots, Daryl, thank you, sir. I think what happens is we get to that place and we forget, we get bored, we crave to learn, we want to understand better. We're like, why do people do this? Like, what would I do in a different situation? Like, you get these crazy thoughts in your mind. And you're like, if I could do it again, I would do this and that and this. And they're like, well, what if we set you in as this individual as such and such? And you're like, all right, I'm listening. Okay, let's do this. And so you go in and experience life again. As a different individual, maybe troubled, maybe wealthy, maybe whatever's appropriate for the situation. And then afterwards, you assess that life. How I've made people feel, what I did with this. I was the richest person in the world and I was still a dick, right? Like, that's not cool. So, yeah, all that. All right. Whew. Okay, I think I got all the questions. Again, I want to thank you guys. All right, I can turn this off. Hide. Wow. All right. Again, A-Score, thank you. You're the best in the world. Thank you guys all for joining. We are kicking into this last one. This is session, 84, I believe. Yes, 84. Green Ray, Great Leap again. Oh, sorry. No, Chakra Cleanse. Anybody's like, what do I do, Dan? What do I do? What do I do? Just look up cleaning chakras. 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 Look them up. Chakras. If you know nothing about them, look up chakras. Not that that's the only way or the best way or anything like that, but was the way I went about it. And as I started paying attention to them, I started realizing what was involved in that, how that part of my life was going. And I was like, all right, that's good, bad, meh. And then I'd get to the next chakra and I'd be like, oh, okay, found some things. And sort of came at life that way. And as I sort of learned to clean my chakras, if you will, my experience very much started to change. Just my reality, my life, and my understanding. So this is for all of us. For all of us. All right, session 84. I'll shut up. I'm so long-winded. But session 84, and it, of course, is on the Fringe, Law of One. Law of One, session 84, recorded April 14th, 1982. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first please give me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. The physical complex energy level of the instrument is in sizable deficit. The vital energies are well. Questioner, in the last session you mentioned least distorted complex protein in that the body complex of the instrument was capable of greatly increased distortion. Would you define the protein of which you spoke, and we would like to know increased distortion in which direction, towards health or ill health? Ra, I am Ra. We were in the cautionary statement about the complex protein, referring to the distortions of the animal protein which has been slaughtered and preservatives added in order to maintain the acceptability to your peoples of this non-living physical material. It is well to attempt to find those which are fresh and of the best quality possible, in order to avoid increasing this particular entity's distortion, which may be loosely termed allergic. We were speaking of the distortion towards disease, which is potential at this space-time. Questioner, what disease in particular were you speaking of, and what would be its cause? Ra, I am Ra. One disease, as you call this distortion, is that of the arthritis and the lupus erythematosus. The cause of this complex of distortion is, at base, pre-incarnative. We refrain from determining the other distortion potential at this space-time due to our desire to maintain the free will of this group. Affirmations may yet cause this difficulty to resolve itself. Therefore, we simply encourage the general care with the diet, with instructions about the allergy, as you call this quite complex distortion of the mind-body complex. Questioner, the instrument asks the following question. Ra has implied that the instrument is on a path of martyrdom, but since all die, are we not all martyred to something? When, if ever, does martyrdom partake of wisdom? Ra, I am Ra. This is a thoughtful query. Let us use as exemplar the one known as Yehoshua. This entity incarnated with the plan of martyrdom. There is no wisdom in this plan, but rather understanding and compassion, extended to its fullest perfection. The one known as Yehoshua would have been less than fully understanding of its course had it chosen to follow its will at any space-time during its teachings. Several times, as you call this measure, this entity had the possibility of moving towards the martyr's place, which was, for the martyr, Jerusalem. Yet, in meditation, this entity stated time and again, it is not yet the hour. The entity could also have, when the hour came, walked another path. Its incarnation would have been prolonged, but the path for which it incarnated somewhat confused. Thusly, one may observe the greatest amount of understanding of which this entity was indeed capable, taking place as the entity in meditation felt and knew that the hour had come for that he be fulfilled, which was its incarnation. It is intended so that all mind-body-spirit complexes shall die to the third density illusion. That is, that each yellow ray physical complex body shall cease to be viable. It is a misnomer, too, for this reason alone, called each mind-body-spirit complex a martyr, for this term is reserved for those who lay down their lives for the service they may provide to others. We may encourage meditation upon the function of the will. Questioner, can you make any suggestion about the instrument's feet or how they got in the bad shape that they are in? And would alternating the shoes help? Ra, I am Ra. The distortion referred to above, that is, the complex of juvenile rheumatoid arthritis and lupus erythematosus, acts in such a way as to cause various portions of the body complex to become distorted in the way in which the instrument's pedal appendages are now distorted. We may suggest care in resumption of the exercise, but determination as well. The alternation of footwear shall prove efficacious. The undergarments for the feet, which you call the anklet, should be of a softer and finer material than is now being used, and should, if possible, conform more to the outline of those appendages which it is placed. This should provide a more efficient aid to the cushioning of these appendages. We may further suggest that the same immersion in the waters, which is helpful to the general distortions, is, in general, helpful to this specific distortion as well. However, the injury which has been sustained in the metatarsal region of the right pedal appendage should further be treated for some period of your space-time by the prudent application of the ice to the arch of the right foot for brief periods, followed always by immersion in the warm water. Questioner, thank you. The instrument asks if the restricted, unpublishable healing information that was given during the first book be included in Book 4, since readers who have gotten that far will be dedicated somewhat. Ra, I am Ra. This publication of material shall, in time, be appropriate. There is intervening material. Questioner, thank you. I am sure that we are getting into an area of problem for the first distortion here, and also with a difficulty and a bit of transient material here. But I have two questions from people that I'll ask, although I consider especially the first one to be of no lasting value. Andriha Puharich asked about coming physical changes, specifically this summer. Is there anything that we could relay to him about that? Ra, I am Ra. We may confirm the good intention of the source of this entity's puzzles and suggestions that it is a grand choice that each may take to, by desire, collect the details of the day, or by desire to seek the keys to unknowing. Questioner, I'm interested. I can't help but be interested in the fact that he had reported being taken on board craft. Could you tell me something about that? Ra, I am Ra. The nature of contact is such that in order for the deep portion of the trunk of the tree of mind affected to be able to accept the contact, Some symbology which may rise to the conscious mind is necessary as a framework for the explanation of the fruits of the contact. In such cases, the entity's own expectations fashion the tale which shall be most acceptable to that entity. And in the dream state, or a trance in which visions may be produced, this seeming memory is fed into the higher levels of the so-called subconscious and the lower levels of the conscious. From this point, the story may surface as any memory and cause the instrument to function without losing balance or sanity. Questioner: thank you. Going back to the previous sessions, it was stated that each sexual activity was transferred before the veil. I am assuming from that which you mean that there was a transfer of energy for each sexual activity before the veil, which indicates to me that a transfer doesn't take place every time. Taking the case before the veil, would you trace the flow of energy that is transferred and tell me if that was the planned activity or a planned transfer by the designed logos? Ra: I am Ra. The path of energy transfer before the veiling during the sexual intercourse was that of the two entities possessed of green ray capability. The awareness of all as creator is that which opens the green energy center. Thusly, there was no possibility of blockage due to the sure knowledge of each by each that each was the creator. The transfers were weak due to the ease with which such transfers could take place between any two polarized entities during sexual intercourse. Questioner: what I was getting at more precisely is the path of energy transfer. When we close an electrical circuit, it is easy to follow the path of energy. It goes along the conductor. I am trying to determine whether this transfer is between the heart chakras of each entity. I am trying to trace the physical flow of the energy to try to get an idea of blockages after the veil. I may be off on a wrong track here. If I'm wrong, we'll just drop it. Can you tell me something about that? Ra: I am Ra. In such a drawing or schematic representation of the circuitry of two mind-body-spirits or mind-body-spirit complexes in sexual or other energy transfer, the circuit opens always at the red or base center and moves as possible through the intervening energy centers. If baffled, it will stop at orange. If not, it shall proceed to yellow. If still unbaffled, it shall proceed to green. It is well to remember in the case of the mind-body-spirit that the chakras or energy centers could well be functioning without crystallization. Questioner: in other words, they would be functioning, but it would be equivalent in electrical circuitry to having a high resistance, shall we say. Although the circuit would be complete, red through green, the total quantity of energy transferred would be less. Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. We might most closely associate your query with the concept of voltage. The uncrystallized, lower centers cannot deliver the higher voltage. The crystallized centers may become quite remarkable in the high voltage characteristics of the energy transfer as it reaches green ray, and indeed as green ray is crystallized. This also applies to the higher energy centers until such energy transfers become an onestation for the creator. Questioner: would you please correct me on this statement then? I am guessing that what happens is that when a transfer takes place, the energy is that light energy that comes in through the feet of the entity and starts the voltage or potential difference starts with the red energy center, and in the case of the green ray transfer, terminates at the green ray energy center and then must leap or flow from the green energy center of the one entity to the green of the other. And then something happens to it. Could you clear up my thinking on that? Ra: I am Ra. Yes. Questioner: would you please do that? Ra: I am Ra. The energy transfer occurs in one releasing of the potential difference. This does not leap between green and green energy centers, but is the sharing of the energies of each from red ray upwards. In this context, it may be seen to be at its most efficient when both entities have orgasm simultaneously. However, it functions as transfer if either has the orgasm, and indeed in the case of the physically expressed love between a mated pair which does not have the conclusion you call orgasm, there is, nonetheless, a considerable amount of energy transfer due to the potential difference which has been raised, as long as both entities are aware of this potential and release its strength to each other by desire of the will in its mental or mind complex dedication. You may see this practice as being used to generate energy transfers in some of your practices of what you may call other than Christian religion distortion systems of the Law of One. Questioner: would you give me an example of the last statement? Ra: I am Ra. We preface this example with the reminder that each system is quite distorted and its teachings always half lost. However, one such system is that called the Tantric Yoga. Questioner: considering individual A and individual B, if individual A experiences the orgasm, is the energy then transferred to individual B in a greater amount? Is that correct? Ra: I am Ra. Your query is incomplete. Please restate. Questioner: what I am trying to determine is the direction of energy transfer as a function of orgasm. Which entity gets the transferred energy? I know it's a dumb question, but I want to be sure I have it cleared up. Ra: I am Ra. If both entities are well polarized and vibrating in green ray love, any orgasm shall offer equal energy to both. Questioner: I see. Before the veil, can you describe any other physical differences that we haven't talked about yet with respect to sexual energy transfers or relationships or anything prior to veiling? Ra: I am Ra. Perhaps the most critical difference of the veiling, before and after, was that before the mind, body, and spirit were veiled. Entities were aware that each energy transfer and, indeed, very nearly all that proceeds from any intercourse, social or sexual, between two entities, has its character and substance in time-space rather than space-time. The energies transferred during the sexual activity are not, properly speaking, of space-time. There is a great component of what you may call metaphysical energy transferred. Indeed, the body complex as a whole is greatly misunderstood due to the post-veiling assumption that the physical manifestation called the body is subject only to physical stimuli. This is emphatically not so. Questioner: after the veil, in our particular case now, we have in the circuitry of which we were speaking what you'd call a blockage that first occurs in orange ray. Could you describe what occurs with this first blockage and what its effects are on each of the entities, assuming that one blocks and the other does not, or if both are blocked? Questioner: I am Ra. This material has been covered previously. If both entities are blocked, both will have an increased hunger for the same activity, seeking to unblock the baffled flow of energy. If one entity is blocked and the other vibrates in love, the entity baffled will hunger still, but have a tendency to attempt to continue the procedure of stating the increasing hunger with the one vibrating green ray due to an impression that this entity might prove helpful in this endeavor. The green ray active individual shall polarize slightly in the direction of service to others, but have only the energy which it began. Questioner: I didn't mean to cover previously covered material. I was trying to work into a better understanding of what we're talking about with background of the veiling process, and what I was actually attempting to do was to discover something new in asking the question. So please, if I ask any questions in the future that have already been covered, don't bother to repeat the material. I am just searching the same area for the possibility of greater enlightenment with respect to the particular area, since it seems to be one of the major areas of experience in our present condition of veiling that produces a very large amount of catalyst, and I am trying to understand, to use a poor term, how this veiling process created a greater experience, and how this experience evolved, shall I say. The questions are very difficult at times to ask. It occurs to me that the many statutes or drawings of the ones known as Lucifer or the devil is shown with an erection. Is this a function of this orange ray blockage? And was this, shall we say, known by, in some minimal way, you might say, by those who devised these statues and drawings, etc.? Ra, I am Ra. There is, of course, much other distortion involved in a discussion of the mythic archetypal form. However, we may answer in the affirmative and note that you are perceptive. Questioner. Then with respect to the green, blue, and indigo transfers of energy, how would the mechanism for these transfers differ in making them possible, or setting the groundwork for them, than the orange ray? I know this is very difficult to ask, and I may not be making any sense, but what I am trying to do is get an understanding of the foundation for transfers in each of the rays, and the preparations for the transfers, you might say, or the fundamental requirements and biases and potentials for these transfers. Could you expand on that for me, please? I am sorry for the poor question. Ra, I am Ra. We would take a moment to state in reply to a previous comment that we shall answer each query whether or not it has been previously covered, for not to do so would be to baffle the flow of quite another transfer of energy. To respond to your query, we firstly wish to agree with your supposition that the subject you now query upon is a large one, for in it lies an entire system of opening the gateway to intelligent infinity. You may see that some information is necessarily shrouded in mystery by your desire to preserve the free will of the adept. The great key to blue, indigo, and finally that great capital of the column of sexual energy transfer, violet energy transfers, is the metaphysical bond or distortion which has the name among your peoples of unconditional love. In the blue ray energy transfers, the quality of this love is refined in the fire of honest communication and clarity. This, shall we say, normally, meaning in general, takes a substantial portion of your space-time to accomplish, although there are instances of matings so well refined in previous incarnations and so well remembered that the blue ray may be penetrated at once. This energy transfer is of great benefit to the seeker, and all communication from the seeker is thereby refined, and the eyes of honesty and clarity look upon a new world. Such is the nature of blue ray energy, and such is the one mechanism of potentiating and crystallizing it. As we approached indigo ray transfer, we find ourselves in a shadowland where we cannot give you information straight out or plain, for this is seen by us to be infringement. We cannot speak at all of violet ray transfers, as we do not, again, desire to break the law of confusion. We may say that these jewels, though dearly bought, are beyond price for the seeker, and might suggest that just as each awareness is arrived at through a process of analysis, synthesis, and inspiration, so should the seeker approach its mate and evaluate each experience, seeking the jewel. Questioner, is there any way to tell which ray the transfer was for an individual after the experience? Is there any way for the individual to tell in which particular ray the transfer occurred? Ra, I am Ra. There is only a subjective yardstick or measure of such. If the energies have flowed so that the love is made whole, green ray transfer has taken place. If, by the same entity's exchange, greater ease in communication and greater sight has been experienced, the energy has been refined to the blue ray energy center. If the polarized entities, by this same energy transfer experience, find that the faculties of will and faith have been stimulated, not for a brief while, but for a great duration of what you call time, you may perceive the indigo ray transfer. We may not speak of the violet ray transfer except to note it is an opening to the gateway of intelligent infinity. Indeed, the indigo ray transfer is also this, but, shall we say, the veil has not yet been lifted. Questioner, before the veil were there, let me put it this way. Did the Logos, or did most Logoi, plan before the veil to create a system of random sexual activity or specific pairing of entities for periods of time, or did they have an objective in this respect? Ra, I am Ra. This shall be the last full query of this working. The harvest from the previous creation was that which included the male and female mind, body, spirit. It was the intention of the original Logo I that entities mate with one another in any fashion which caused a greater polarization. It was determined, after observation of the process of many Logoi, that polarization increased manyfold if the matings were not indiscriminate. Consequent Logoi thusly preserved a bias towards the mated relationship which is more characteristic of more disciplined personalities and of what you may call higher densities. The free will of each density, however, was always paramount, and a bias only could be offered. May we ask if there are maybe any brief queries before we leave this instrument? Questioner: is there anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra: I am Ra. We would ask that each of the support group be especially vigilant in the what you would call immediate future due to this instrument's unbidden but serious potential for increased distortions towards illness and health. You are most conscientious. We thank you, my friends, and leave you in the glorious light and love of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. Heck yeah, Adonai. So many things. Again, I could do hours probably on each session. So again, we're just grabbing little snippets. I have one question, probably a couple more will come in. We'll see. If not, no biggie. And I will do a share hangout with 10-15 minutes after. It'll be in the comments section. Only live people get to experience this. That's the only way it happens, man. Yeah. Starting it off, we are how we are for a reason. So many of us are attempting to be something else, like, oh, the so-and-so's so happy, the Kardashians or whatever, like just a stupid example. But you are who you are. You are wired the way you are. You are that way perfectly. Acknowledge it, accept it. Strength Finders, look it up. Strength Finders, I don't know if it's strengthfinders.com, if it's that simple, but Strength Finders is all about finding your strengths and really running towards those rather than trying to fix your weaknesses. You'll waste time doing that when you're already good at certain things. Run with your strengths. What are they? Run with them. Chakras, it starts at red. So when you're connecting with people, when you're connecting energetically, the chakras, it's going to work up through red, Roy G. Biv, up through the lower chakras, up to the higher. Now, again, there's this upper flow through the feet, and there's this down flow from your higher. Let's not get lost in that. Ultimately, when you're connecting with another individual, it's going to be kind of through the root up, right? So if you're not far enough along, or if you're further along than them, they may never get, you guys may never really equalize properly. Let's put it that way. That's the easy way to say that. Finally, Washington Monument. I think they call it the obelisk shape, right? Those things are all over the world, right? Devil's card. And he talked about I don't want to say the word, but the devil's card, even though I already said it, technically, I voiceovered. But the devil's card does show the happiness, if you will, and that is part of the monuments. They've been put all over the place. This is symbolic. So there's something to pay attention to when it comes to regards to that. I lost the comment. I don't know if I can easily find it or not. Who do we got? It's from Yabika. I don't know why. There it is. Question. Cool. I found you. Question. Why do children, when still innocent and very young, seem to have no veil? Children don't know there's supposed to be a veil. They come from the place that we all come from. They come from the place that we all go to when we dream at night. They come to the place, or come from the place. And they're so more fresh from the place that they remember not being here more than not being there. We remember being here more than not being there. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. Don't talk to your imaginary friends, like that kind of stuff. This is what we impart on people when they come here. So that's a great question. I love it, Yabika. I don't know why it makes me think of Chewbacca, but it does. It does. That's my problems. That's what's wrong with me. Well, guys, I think we hit all the questions. Makes me happy. I love you guys. We are gonna, well, like I said, we'll have a quick meet and greet afterwards. I'll put a link in the comments. We are going to continue to do the Law of One. We're getting towards the end. I think there's 106 or so sessions. You'd think I'd look it up at this point. No. Why? That's stupid. Facts and... I don't want to do that. That's not going to happen. No, sir, not on my watch. But we'll continue to do more of this. There's a lot, guys. I think as we expand, as we grow, as we become the greater version of ourselves that's waiting to come out, you'll be amazed at what you experience in your life, you as an individual. And it will be very, very cool and empowering. I love you guys. It is Law of One. This is one of the ways we're going to get there. That's for sure. But certainly where we go one, we go all. And that's one thing that's important to me as well. And it is the Law of One on the...
Meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining.
The Law of One.
You, deeper than the straining you, is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.